Today's guest, I'm very excited to have Anthony Church.
I'm just excited to have somebody on the podcast who is from a place that has good pizza.
I was a hater on Beatstars. Fall of 2020 is when I switched to Beatstars, and I put up a song every day now for almost 4 years on there.
You're one of our few FL guys. What are some production-y things that you've been doing lately that you've been really stoked on? Like,
Yeah, I've been looking more at like.
welcome back to the Home Studio Hangout podcast. I'm your host Drew, here with my co-host Josh. Josh, you look a little chilly today.
I'm freezing cold.
Why is your house so cold? It's the South, dude.
Because it is pouring down rain and like 50 degrees here.
Oh, really?
What do you? It's not like that up there right now.
No, it feels really nice out here, up here right now. We're only like 2 hours difference.
No, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
It's it's not bad. I mean, I'm wearing a t-shirt right now, and it's I walked outside like this, and it wasn't too bad. It had a little nip in the air, but it wasn't too shabby. It's not raining, at least.
Yeah, it's been pouring all day. It's disgusting.
Yeah. Well, outside of the weather conditions in both of our areas, today's guest, I'm very excited to have Anthony Church. Anthony's super stoked to have you here. Anthony's a producer and host of his own podcast, which has been very cool to kind of watch you do that, the Proven Knowledge podcast, and cool to see clips of that and kind of get to know you a little bit, through the internet. But dude, Anthony, thank you so much for coming on today and hanging out with us.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
We appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
Well, thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here. So
I'm just excited to have somebody on the podcast who is from a place that has good pizza and good sandwiches, because all these Southerners know nothing about it.
see, I always rag
man.
on Ohio that there's really no food staples. Like Cincinnati has like Skyline Chili and stuff like that, and Cleveland.
Yeah.
I don't know what Cleveland's technically known for. Like they have some decent spots, but not like a ton. I always go to other places. Like I go to Dallas. I have great food. I'm like, why don't we have this back there? You know what I mean? But
No, that's a real thing.
I mean, that's a shout.
there was like only one Indian spot on like near where I lived, north of Pittsburgh, and it was awful. It was some of the worst Indian food I've ever had in my life. And like, trying to find good Mexican food.
But also,
is
what
very
kind of
difficult.
food staple is chili? Bro?
yeah, I don't.
What kind of food
And the
staple
biggest
is
thing to
chili?
me is where
It's
I'm at in
Ohio.
Ohio, we don't really even consider Cincinnati Ohio. That's Kentucky.
Yeah, it is
Like,
100%.
It's what?
it's Kentucky.
It's Kentucky.
Oh, yeah, it basically
Yeah.
is. It's basically
right
Louisville.
on the river. Yeah, you walk over and it's Newport.
Yeah.
Like
Even in
Kentucky.
sports, like if you come to where I am, there's no Reds fans, there's no Bengals fans. It's like Browns, and like Cincinnati doesn't exist up here. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. But it's the same state, so it's
No.
weird. It's very weird. So
That's
it
funny.
doesn't exist. It's not a real place,
Yeah.
actually. It's
I
a
remember-
fake made up place.
I remember when Aaron's brother, they used to live in Louisville. They just moved down our way, but they lived in Louisville for a really long time. And I was like, so where's all of these places? And yeah, Cincinnati's like 30 minutes from them. Indiana's literally across the actual river. Like you can see Indiana from Louisville. Nashville's like 2 hours down the other direction. It's like, oh, so you live in the middle of everything. It's
like for me, Cincinnati
Must be
is like a
the-
5-hour drive to get to Cincinnati. Like that's how far away it is.
Yeah, it's
somewhere. Like
far.
Columbus is like
Yeah.
3 hours, and Cincinnati's another like 2 hours from there. So
Yeah, you're closer to where I grew
Yeah.
up than any other city
Yeah.
in Ohio.
Yin's land.
and I'm
Yes,
closer
sir.
to
That's what I'm going to call
Pittsburgh
it.
than I am to Columbus. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Columbus is a really nice city.
I've only been a couple times. I
I've
don't
been
go there
there-
that often. But
Yeah, same. But every time I went, it was like, oh, it's like Pittsburgh, but
Yeah.
cleaner.
Yeah.
It's like they gave it a bath.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm excited to see your home of origin, Josh.
Oh, it's gonna
Soon.
be great, dude. I'm gonna show you all the good things.
Yeah, hopefully show me some good sandwiches and pizza, dude.
Oh yeah, of course.
Anthony, my man, let's for the people who don't know who you are, maybe give them like the general gist of who you are and what you do up
Yeah.
top right
So,
here.
okay, so I started making music in 2016. So, like, fresh out of high school is really when I began. Just started producing for my friend and artist who goes by the name of J Trey. I still work with him. We've known each other for like 20 years. So, it kind of just started as like we both love music. And he was like, hey, I kind of want to rap. You want to make beats for me? And I was like, oh, that'd be pretty cool. So, we just started doing that. And then I just kept working every single day. I use FL Studio. That's what I started on. That's what I still use to make beats, things like that. And I just kept
Nice.
going. It eventually led me to working with different independent artists. I'd say around like 2018, 19 is when I started to like put myself out on social media more. Because the first couple of years, it was like I really just want to see if I can even do this. I don't know if I'm even going to be good at
Yeah.
this. So I just spent the first couple of years getting better and got to a point I was like, okay, I could probably start putting myself out there more. Started uploading. I was still uploading to like SoundClick. I don't know if you guys remember that site. Used to be able to sell
Yeah.
songs on there for like $1. So I would put like
Hmm.
my beats up there. I didn't even show my face. I still had like a logo that I was using. And then I like made my social media, kind of tailored it more to the music, and just slowly started doing that. I took like an online course for music marketing. So like I ended up going
Hmm.
to community college after high school. Only was in there for a couple years. I decided that really wasn't helping me like get where I wanted to go. So just shifted to doing online schooling for specifically music marketing. Um, Fast forward to 2020, around the time of the pandemic. So I was just starting to get, working with independent artists like in 2019, early 2020. When the pandemic happened, I lost one of my part-time jobs, got laid off, and I ended up having a lot of time on my hands. I was listening to a lot of podcasts, and I was like, I really want to do like a music show. Like it would be cool to interview people. And so since I
Hmm.
already knew artists and was connected with these people, I was like, let me reach out to these individuals and see if they would want to be on like a show. So I did that and just started getting like a guest list going. I still have the same guest list of I just add people every week, and that's how my show started, called the Proven Knowledge Podcast. And Proven Knowledge was a brand that me and Jay Trey, who I just mentioned, we started that in 2018. And it basically just means, combining your logical and emotional sides in creativity. So we do like music, like it houses our music, but we also do other things as well. And like we did a version of the podcast before, but it wasn't really centered around music and it wasn't consistent. So I was like, let me just do this
Hmm.
again and like make it a consistent show. So like I said, just started reaching out to the people I knew at the time, and I got overwhelming response of like, that would be super cool, super awesome. And for me, I'm like, I'm an introvert. I got to come up with all these questions and like talk to people every
Yeah.
week. That is super nerve wracking. But I just like jumped in and just started doing it. And I think the more that I've done it, it's just become a lot more like seamless and a little easier. Like I still have those moments where I'm like, oh man, I don't know if this is going well, or you don't know how you're doing or if the person's enjoying it. But it's definitely become a cool like second arm to what I've done like musically, and it helps me be able to
Yeah.
talk to other people that are like independent artists and people that are kind of in the same spot as I am, or they might be going through the same type of struggles. And I'm able to, just hear their story and then hopefully use that to help somebody else to listening to. That's just kind of what the show is all about. But yeah, still to this day making music, doing this podcast, and who knows where else it's going to lead. But I think in a nutshell, that's kind of like what I do and what I've done up to this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And we were talking about your audio only, which is really cool. I think like you were saying, like making the jump to video can be like a big jump.
yeah.
Uh, which I totally understand. We started as video, but I had kind of prior knowledge
Mm.
of doing video stuff. So that kind of
Shut up.
helped us
You
there.
love video. You live for this.
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Sometimes.
It's like, by the way, I'm actually recording at 6K right now.
Yeah, no big deal.
I'm
No big deal or
recording
anything.
at no, I don't have 6K camera, Josh. I have a 4K cinematic camera, but that's okay. I
Did you
have
hear
a
that?
I have a Sony
It's cinematic.
FX30. So yeah, it doesn't go to 6K, Josh.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But the yeah, I just got nerdy about video early on and
It's
kind of
sick.
before the podcast happened. But I probably would have gone, and I debated on the video thing early on of like going audio
Yeah.
only straight up, and I can imagine it's probably a lot less stressful
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
for
for
you
for
as
me it's just
well
a
as
time
the
thing
artist.
at this point. Like it's not something I'd say I won't ever do. And like
Yeah.
we were even talking about before we recorded how there's things like Riverside where a lot of the stuff is already done within the app, like whatever you're trying to distribute
Mhm.
through. And I think that'll just keep getting more seamless because podcasting has really taken off, especially the last like 4 years, and a lot more people are starting shows and wanting to do their own thing. So I think they're
Yeah,
trying to put more tools in place to kind of help people make it a little easier, or like the barrier of entry, make it a little bit
for
more
sure.
easy to do. So we'll see. I mean, for me, it's just like, yeah, I'm doing all this on my own. I gotta like figure out, per
Yeah,
week
I
on
get
that
that.
stuff, but we'll see. It might happen one day.
I
So
feel that. I
I
have
I
Josh
have
here to keep my sanity, mainly just so I don't have to talk 100% of the time.
yeah, that would be terrible. That would actually be really bad. Um, I have a question for you? Do you know a guy named Mike Frush?
I do not know.
He's in Youngstown and he's really
Okay, my
good.
friend
He
lives
like
in
started in hip
Austin
hop.
Town, which is like 10 minutes from Youngstown, so he lives that direction now. But I don't really know anyone in Youngstown, believe it or not. But might have
Interesting.
to look him
Yeah,
up.
I'll send you his information. You should hit him up. He's really really good. Um, and yeah, so as far as you said that you were putting your beats up onto like SoundClick
Mhm.
and stuff like that. Um, kind of where has it gone since?
As far as just putting beats on the internet, or
Yeah, like are you mostly you know uh posting beats on websites like for release, or do you have like artists hitting you up? Like I don't know, I'm just kind
yeah.
of curious how
So
everything
I
is like what
Yeah, so I
yeah.
definitely ended up transitioning off SoundClick. SoundClick was kind of something that was big in like the early 2000s and the late 2010s,
Hmm.
when the producer
Yeah.
community was really starting to move on to the internet. So SoundClick's kind of a dead thing at this point. And I knew about BeatStars, which is where I'm at now. I knew about that, but I was a hater on BeatStars. I was like, that's fucking stupid. Like people go on there and like download a song like a million times or whatever. I don't understand it. I just didn't like get the whole platform. But then I started researching it more and like how it can be a way of just making passive income. And I was like, oh, that actually makes more sense
Yeah.
when you kind of break it all down and basically set the price point to the different license types and just give the artist the option to like get whatever's best for them so they can start writing to the song and do their own thing. So the fall of 2020 is when I switched to BeatStars, and I put up a song every day now for almost 4 years on there, a beat every day.
Cool.
So I'm
Dang.
Have you gotten a fair amount of
Yeah,
leases?
I mean, it like I was telling Drew this before about how it's kind of hit or miss still because it really just is like it's an extra thing, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, BeatStars still owns like the traffic that goes through there. You can obviously direct people to the site, which I do through like promotion and stuff. Like I'll post usually every Monday I'll post one of the beats. I do like a highlighted beat of the week, like what's my favorite beat that I've done in the
Yeah.
last like month. I'll put that up on Mondays and like promote it. You'll get some things going through there. And then like the artists that I work with myself, I'm obviously pointing them in the direction of things they might enjoy over there. But what's cool is that it's just another form of discoverability. So you can put your songs up
Mhm.
there and you're going to get heard by people all over the world. You know, as long as you're putting in the right metadata and, let's say you're doing a type beat or something and you put whatever artist, you just got to make sure you're putting the right tags in based on like the BPM and the style and things like that. Just as long as you're doing that, like I had to get used to that at first because I wasn't when I was first uploading stuff, I wasn't doing like metadata that was standing out. Um, but I think the more I've done it now, I'm like, okay, I kind of know, this track is in this style. What I do now is, because I've been doing a lot more R&B tracks within the last like year and a half, what I do, at least this is my method, you kind of do whatever you want. I go to Spotify, they do like an R&B weekly where they post that
Yeah.
week whoever just dropped new music. So I'll go there and I'll see like, oh, so and so dropped a new song. If I have something in the style of that or kind of a similar vibe, I'm gonna upload that and use that as like the keywords and be like, since this person dropped a new song, most likely people are looking for this style out there somewhere, and that's helped me a lot,
Right.
to kind of just increase the plays and increase the
That's really
traffic and
smart.
things like that. So, and that's techniques I learned through just other people, hearing what other people have done, and that might shift to something else eventually too, and just kind of see what I can do
Sure.
moving forward. But for me, BeatStars is just kind of another extension of what I do. I never solely rely on that for like everything that I'm doing. But it's nice to have, and to me, it's worth it. I've had people hit me up. They're like, "Is it worth paying annually to be on this platform?" And I'm like, honestly, I say it would be, because, like I said, you get that traffic that you don't get solely on your own. You know what I mean? You can have your own site and
Yeah.
sell your own beats through your own website. If you want to do that as well, go ahead. But when you partner with a platform that has the infrastructure and they have everything built up already, it's like they do have to work for you up front. So you just got to make sure, like I said, you're putting in the metadata, and as long as you're putting up like quality material, you're going to get found by people. And I've already connected with at least 4 or 5 artists that found me through there, and now we're working one on one because of that platform. So it's like,
Yeah.
what would I have done if I didn't have that? You know what I mean? Probably would have never met those people. So it's like, if it's kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
like the same as you view like a YouTube thing, which YouTube's a bit different because obviously there's, you can monetize it, but you can't monetize it as well as like a BeatStars. But it's discoverability. Like, you can be found by
Yeah.
anybody and they can hear what you're doing. So it's just how you view it and what you want to do. But yeah, I've been on BeatStars now for almost 4 years. And I can't really complain about what they do. I mean, they've changed it a bit since
Yeah.
I began, but to me, it's just a good thing to have, and you can make some passive income. So what's the harm in that, I guess? So
Yeah. Yeah, that's sick. Yeah, I've never had too much luck with like the type beat
yeah,
platforms. Mostly just because like I'm not super
mm,
into it like that,
yeah,
you know? And then other than that, like the only real experience, I guess I kind of had like um it took me a while to actually sign up and try it, because my only interaction with BeatStars before that is whenever artists would be like, "Hey, I downloaded this beat off of BeatStars, but I want you to make
yeah,
something better."
yeah. And
You know?
usually, a lot of
And
the
so
time, sorry to interrupt, a lot of the times, what
you're
I
good.
get from people is I get the same thing too. And they'll say, I tried to get in
Hmm.
contact with the producer, and I'm not hearing from this person. Like, I can't get in touch with them.
Yeah.
Even if they have an email attached, they just like aren't very
Mhm.
personable at all. So for me, I look at it as an opportunity of like, well, let me show this person like who I am as an individual. Like, let me be more one on one with this
Yeah.
person. So using BeatStars in that way too, because I think BeatStars isn't designed for like individuality. It's designed for a very transactional thing to make it easy for the artist. I understand that. But if you can leverage that in a way where it's like, you're gonna really do your due diligence to be like, this person bought a beat from me. Let me reach out to them. Now let me take this elsewhere. Like, let me take this off BeatStars and try to develop this into a real
Yeah.
relationship. That's where I've had success as
Yeah.
well, is just like taking the extra
I was
step.
about to say
So
that's definitely like the strategy that should
yeah,
work, you know,
Yeah.
because uh there's only so much that like can really come from writing to a
yeah,
pre-made beat. I'm sure it works. There's a lot of huge hip hop songs that were literally just a 2-track
yeah,
and a vocal, but for anything that's a little bit more intricate, it's just harder,
Yeah.
and I feel like a lot of times, it's always best to kind of take the beat and then let's write the vocal and then let's
Yeah.
produce it for real.
Yeah.
But that's smart that you're doing that, because that's really like where I think that platform like really
Excels.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It kind of just
Yeah, it excels as a
go ahead.
I was gonna say it excels as a platform to get yourself some baseline, obviously some baseline income,
Mhm.
but also a baseline in like brand development.
Yeah.
And then as a launching point to launch into scaling it up to
Yeah.
higher artist rates or, one-on-one clients or like you said, that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
I always
Sorry, I
just,
didn't mean to
no, you're
interrupt.
all good. I always just try to do my part in the whole process and just be like, let me just, whatever I can do. And I've had artists where they might buy a beat and then I reach out to them and I just don't hear from them because maybe they don't want that connection. Maybe that's all they want is the beat
Yeah.
and just to move on. And that's okay. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just every individual wants a different thing.
For sure.
So it's just kind of finding the right people and then I've had experiences where, like I said, we're still working now and we're building our own thing totally off the platform. But, I have the platform to
Mhm.
thank for the initial connection. So it's like, well, that was cool.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
That's really cool. I would love to understand because like I said, me and Josh don't have like a whole lot of experience with this stuff. So explain the license stuff
yeah,
to me because I don't understand half this
yeah,
stuff. Because I know you have like a basic license and then kind of as you price it up, it can be like exclusive or, and then
Yeah.
MP3 versus WAV or
yeah,
stems or whatever. I guess it's kind of dependent on you, but I'll let you
yeah.
kind of
So I
explain
guess in a
in detail.
nutshell, like there's no specific standard, but there is. It's kind of hard to explain. It's like whatever each person wants to do. And a platform
Mhm.
like Beatstars allows you to do this because they already have what they call pre-made contracts. So you can just edit the contracts wherever you want. But yeah, basically we'll just do a rough example. Basic license is just an MP3. So you pay like $30 and all you get is just the MP3, which means you can't mix it really at all. You get the one track. That's all you can do with it. If you want to do, let's just say the next one's called like a premium. So you get the MP3 and the wave. Still can't really mix those. The wave is a higher quality version of the song, but it's still, you're stuck with whatever the mix that the producer put up. You pay like $60 for that one. And then if you want to go up more, you want to get the stems, you're going to pay like 120. And that'll be the one where you get the MP3, the wave, and you get all the stems. So now you can at least mix it how you want. You can redo it, kind of customize it however you want. So basically, each price point you're going up, but you get more and more. And then also within those, if you want as a producer, you can put like a cap on the streams that someone can have with a certain song. So a threshold on the streams. I, for one, don't do that because I just don't, the way streaming is now, I just don't see the value in it, especially when artists aren't really reaching that threshold to begin with. Most of these artists are new or independent or coming up. I understand why people do it.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, if a song blows up, I can kind of change the contract based on, that threshold. Like say we put a threshold of 15,000 streams. Well, now I'm going to take another percentage if it passes that threshold. And that's all done. Like
Yeah.
BeatStars can't really directly control what you do after the transaction is made. You can change things based on
Yeah.
however you want, especially if you have a separate contract that you put something in writing and you both sign it. You can do whatever you want outside of the platform. So the stream threshold thing is I don't know. I just have mixed feelings about it, and I don't
It's
bother
really
with
hard
it
to audit
personally.
it.
And it is, yeah,
Yeah, how do you even pay
yeah.
attention? How do you even check?
You
Because
don't.
like,
You
And the
really
thing
don't.
is, the
And
higher
that's
you
like the biggest problem
yeah,
with
the
leasing.
higher that you like, the more songs you have in your catalog as you keep going, it's harder to keep track. You know what I mean? Unless you have someone on
Yeah.
your team that's doing it for you, and you're really just putting in the work to figure it out. It definitely becomes challenging. So, like I said, I see the purpose of it to an extent. Um, but it's just something I don't think is worth it, especially when we're getting paid like half a cent per stream at the
yeah,
time that we're recording this. So it's like I don't really understand that part. But as far as the license type of like, let's pay 30 and you get the MP3, I do understand that structure. It took me a while to get it, but I
Sure.
was like, well, you set these price points, but you're giving them a little more every time they go up. So it gives more of an incentive to say, hey, you should aim for this higher price point. And the way I do it is like, I'll allow people to get the lowest license. And then eventually, if they want to upgrade the license, I'll be like, hey, we'll subtract whatever you just did from whatever price you just paid for the initial license. Just pay the remainder and I'll give you that higher license. That's what I do for a lot of my stuff.
That's really smart too.
So, but yeah, it just kind of depends on like each person, what they're trying to do, what their business model is. And yeah.
And I guess the struggle for me is, especially on the lower end, let's just say you have an MP3 and you mix it and you whatever, and then you release it. The thing is like, I guess it's kind of rough for you as a producer because you can't control what people do with the song. And if people are releasing a song and then putting like a content ID or something on it, like you can't really whitelist it for other artists to then come through and buy
Yeah.
it. So like they're kind of messing up your stuff.
And
then,
that's
aren't
where
they?
because I know Beatstars is trying to take a lot of initiative to like fix that and like kind of figure things out, but I just don't see a permanent solution to that.
There's
Because
no
the
way.
barrier of entry is like I pay
Yeah.
$30, I get the song, and it's untagged, so I can use it how I want. And it's like we said
Yep.
about connecting one-on-one, unless you get in touch with the artist and work something out on the back end, most likely they're just going to do what they want, and you're not going to know. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then there's also the chance that they're just gonna post it and then not credit
Yeah.
you or anything, not cut you into points, and then it's really hard to audit
Yeah.
that stuff.
This is why, like I said, it's just
mean-
an arm of what someone can do. I would never tell anybody like put all your chips on a platform like this, and that's all you should do. Like, no, I would always just be like, do your best to really have it involved in your world and what you do, but never solely rely on that. Like, it's just another thing to have.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I do love the idea of you and my buddy Jesse actually did a very similar thing, which is like when they got started making beats and they were like trying to get really, really good, you make something every day and then you just use Beatstars /YouTube as a promotion tool to like say, I made this beat. I think it's pretty good. I'm going to put it here so at least I could potentially make some money off of it if somebody wants it. But regardless, I'm really just using it as a place to hold all my stuff.
yeah. And the good news is you don't have to put all your material on there too. So you can hold other material and do other things with it. That's the beauty of being able to create, is just like you can choose what you want to do with this stuff. So
yeah, it's something that's interested me. And I know people that make a killing off of it. I don't know people that have started careers like, as a jumping off point of like, the one that I'm most familiar with is Graham. I don't know if you know Graham. Graham is 100 Graham. He's a producer who makes a lot of stuff for like Nick D and Connor Price.
Oh, okay. No, I've never heard of it. I've heard of those artists though. So
yeah, so both of them earlier on in their career bought beats from Graham, who was making beats at the time while he was in college, and then that's how they connected. And now he's like one of their main guys, but they don't buy through his beat store. But they started by buying through his beat store, which is like an interesting thing. So those relationships definitely like start there and then go off platform, like what you're talking about. But it's very rare that you have that go to that level. You're very rarely it's gonna be, oh, you got two artists back to back that are both 9 million monthly plus, like, and you're their main guy. Like that's so
like
rare.
a right place at the right time scenario to the fullest. Right there.
This episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast is brought to you by Bliss. Bliss is a French audio developer focusing on developing creative and intuitive synths and effects. They've developed over 25 different plugins for Windows, Mac, and iOS for all of my iPhone and iPad producers. You can discover plugins such as the Bliss Monolith, which is a mono synth they have for free, as well as the Bliss Arpeggiator, Bliss Megalith Wavetable Synthesizer, or Bliss Voices, the ultimate vocal harmonizer. Go to bliss.com, that's BLEASS.com, and use the promo code homestudiohangout, all one word, to save 20% off of your next order. Thank you to Bliss for sponsoring this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast. Now, let's get back to the conversation. We kind of talked about the Beatstar stuff and all of that stuff. I would love to now maybe talk about more of like your podcast things, because we haven't touched on that yet.
Mhm.
So how'd you get started on the podcast, and kind of what it is and what it's for and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So the podcast started initially with my buddy Jay Trey in 2018. And all we did was talk about, like, we did music stuff. We would do some album reviews, like our favorite albums of the year and things like that. But we also did sports and some other topics. And then around the time of the pandemic, I just had a lot of time on my hands. So I was listening to a lot of different podcasts, and I came up with the idea that I wanted to do, kind of keep the podcast going, but do like more of an interview series. And I had already been working with different artists for the last year or so before that, had people on social media, and I was like, I should just start reaching out to people and see if they want to like be on a show like that if I started one. So basically that's what I did, and then just started asking the individuals, and I got a great response from people, and they just said, we'd love to do that. And I just pretty much started a guest list, which I still have like in my notes app on my phone. Just started going one by one. So I started in May of 2020. So yeah, next month will be 4 years
That's sick,
total.
dude.
And just doing it every week. And the only week I take off is the like last week of the year. So like Christmas, New Year's, because I know people are doing stuff. They're
That
not going to
weird
be
week,
like,
yeah.
yeah, they're not going to be like sitting listening to a podcast probably. So
Yeah, we take
Yeah.
off the first week of the year too. That's kind of our
yeah,
like big week, main week off. Technically, we take off the last 2 weeks of the year and the first week of the year. But what I do is I cut like best of episodes for the last two of the year,
yeah,
and then the first one we just completely take off.
Yeah.
That is just easier. But yeah, dude, no,
mhm,
that's really cool that you do that for the pod. So podcast wise, what's it mainly geared towards? Are you like promoting an artist? Are you talking about music production? Are you just talking music in general?
yeah.
Like what's a little more about what it's about?
Yeah. So this, I mean, when it started out, it was basically just, interviewing people that I was working with, so artists and
Mm-hmm.
producers mostly. And then it kind of just slowly evolved. Now it's like engineers. I've had other podcasters on. Anyone that's really involved in the music world, is kind of like who I'm looking for now. And really the whole point of the show is just to, inform people of different ways that you can get involved and be in the like music industry or just be creative. Because I think that a lot of people, they think everything's kind of pigeonholed. You can only do like certain things. You can only do one thing. There's only one way to like have success and sustainability. So to get the perspectives of different individuals every week, it's like you can just see in their stories that no, there's a lot of different ways to do this. And hopefully it's just used as an education thing for other people that are, up and coming, or they haven't even started yet and they want to get into it. They don't know
Yeah.
how. If they hear somebody else, giving them advice or just telling their story, that helps a lot. Because that's what helped me too when I wanted to be in music and I wanted to be a producer. I would just watch interviews of other people that were doing it or
Mm-hmm.
people I looked up to, and I got more through the conversations than even just like listening to their music sometimes. Because you just get
Yeah.
that advice, you just get that information. So that's
I
kind of
feel
what the
that.
point of the show was to begin with, and kind of what it'll always be. But yeah, it's evolved past just artists and producers. Now it's really a lot of people, as long as they're in the creative space, mostly the music space. So
Very cool.
Yeah.
Josh, were you gonna say something?
I think it's really important to, gain like as many perspectives as you can, because there's just a lot of bad advice out there,
yeah,
and if I had only followed advice that I was given whenever I was like 18, 19, 20, like I think I would have never had progressed at all. you know.
Mm.
And
100%.
I mean, you have dudes who like barely have worked with indie record labels talking about how like, oh, I have a 2 revision maximum on mixes, and it's like, shut up. Like, Serban doesn't have a limit. Why else do you think Serban gets hired for every single pop mix in the entire world? You know, and it's like you start to like really understand like how flexible like the industry is, but then at the same time like how flexible you have to be as, you know, a professional. And it's been really cool talking to different people and, you know, just learning as much as I can.
Yeah, it's been super interesting to see, like, especially, I mean, I'm sure you can relate to this as well. Like, we've recently started branching out of like just artists and producers and going still music industry related, but you know, we've done front of house guys, we've done some
Spencer
finance.
was probably my favorite
Spencer was
episode.
super cool. So
Yeah.
Spencer is a financial planner who specifically works with producers and DIY musicians. So
Mm.
he helps them with like the finance side. Spencer List. That was super cool. We recently had on my buddy Evan, he's a documentary director and like editor. He owns a post house,
Yeah.
and but he does a lot of like music video work, and he uses music really heavily in his films and docs and stuff. So it's like talking with him about how he kind of approaches music and all that kind of. It's just, I don't know, man. Very
Yeah.
very interesting
It's been
time.
really cool. Dude, it was really funny with Evan's episode because he was like, yeah, you know, it's really cool. Like I could just do this from anywhere, just like you guys. And I'm like thinking like, I wish. I wish.
He's built up. The difference is with Evan is that he's built himself up to being able to do that at this point. And
Yeah.
like at a point you can, but
Yeah.
yeah, he did all the legwork in LA for years and now he doesn't have to
Yeah.
worry about
He
it.
put in all the
Yeah.
like his 10,000 hours, you know.
Sure.
So
Yeah. And he, even outside of that, he's kind of gotten his connection so strong that it doesn't really matter. And I think that's like what I'm learning from a lot of these people is like, if you have hours almost don't matter. It's like strength of connections at this point. Um, like
Yeah.
hours matter in the terms of like the skill ability, but as far as your network goes, it's like strength of network is honestly gives you, the stronger your network is, the more flexibility you have
yeah.
Yeah.
as far as location.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of like the advice like for young audio professionals is to like, you know, like, oh, you have to be better than other people. And it's like, well, once you get to a certain point, like everybody's good. Like you're not getting hired because you're good. It's like expected that you're good, you know? And then there's also the thing where it's like, there's like this whole mindset of like beating your clients like into submission, you know, where
Oh
it's like,
yeah.
I have super strict boundaries and blah, 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 blah. And all that really does is just make it way harder for people to work with you. And like that's not what gets you hired. You know, it's like we're in a service-based industry. Like, could you imagine going to the restaurant and they're like, hey, you're gonna have to fill out this contact form and then we will email you back. And then once we email you back, you could let us know what you want to eat for dinner. And then once we approve what you eat for dinner, we will give you a quote on said thing. And then we're just not even going to give it to you. And when you tell us it's wrong and it needs to be a different way, we just tell you no, you have to pay extra. Like that's a crazy thought. That is an insane thought, you know?
Yeah.
And like there's so many people that like preach that stuff. And then like you check their credits and you're like, oh, it makes sense, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So
I feel like I'm clipping.
For Anthony, what are some like interesting conversations that you've been able to have on the podcast? Like highlight a couple for me, especially for people that might want to go check it out.
Yeah. So I see it's hard now because I'm over 200 episodes in, so I'm already forgetting like half the shit and half the people I talk to. But a big one that I did was getting to interview an engineer named David Kim. He's worked with Hit Boy, who's a big producer out there right now. He's mixed the last like 5 or 6 Nas albums. So, like the shirt I'm wearing, the Magic 3, he mixed that album. So he's a really cool guy. and just someone that's worked with a lot of different people that I've been a fan of. So like getting to talk with people like that, or people that have worked with like some of my
Mhm.
favorite artists, which is kind of cool. Um, like this morning, I told you I did a podcast this morning. It was a part two of one I did with a producer named Hayes, who is in LA. I was listening to his music back before I even produced music. And so like I remember reaching out to him a few years ago and we did the podcast initially, and then this time he got back with me. He's like, "Man, I like that you're still doing this platform. I would love to come back on and do a part two." So we just had a cool discussion about like what he's doing. He's venturing beyond music, like he's doing like art galleries and different things outside of just what you would think a normal producer would do.
That's
Um,
very sick. I
just as
like that
like
a lot.
even getting to talk, yeah, yeah, even getting to talk with people that like I was either a fan of before or I just got to know them now on a personal level is cool. But really, just every conversation, I feel like I learned something from. And it's like I said, even I look at it like that's me as the host. So imagine what the listener is thinking when they're hearing all these different conversations. Like you just get these perspectives, and you can take a little bit of what everybody says and like apply it to your own journey, and hopefully it helps you out. And that's kind of like the point of the whole show. But those are a couple that stand out to me. Like I said,
I'm
there's
gonna have
just
to
so
check that
many
out.
at this point. It's kind of
I
hard to
love the
keep track
whole
of all of them.
I love the whole
But
art gallery thing. I
Yeah.
feel like it's our duty to immerse ourselves in as many forms of art as possible. Because I rarely think of music as like this 2D, kind of like expression. When you listen to a song, oftentimes you think of, places you've been or places you want to be, or, memories that you've had or experiences that you've had. And so I always think it's cool, like whenever I'm listening to a song and I think of like a scene in a movie, or it reminds me of like an art exhibition that I went to or something like that. I think that that's like kind of where you know we can set ourselves apart from the rest of the pack, is by trying to
Yeah.
make those connections and making it mean something more than just the words that are being said.
Or when you listen to Evanescence Bring Me to Life and it reminds you of the first Spider-Man movie.
Bro, did you know
classic.
okay, first of all, the first Spider-Man movie is the best superhero movie of all
It's
time.
so funny how
All
bad
right.
it is, dude.
No, you're wrong. I haven't watched it since I was a little kid because I want to make sure that it will always be good to me. All right.
Yeah, you have that picture
And
in your mind 100% of the time. Yeah.
yes, dude. Toby is the GOAT. And on top of that, um I just found out that the guitarist of Evanescence is like a huge writer in Nashville.
Really? That's amazing.
Yeah, his name is I think it's David Hodges. Like he has like his own publishing company and stuff, and like he works with like a ton of huge artists. And I was like, this is the coolest thing that I've ever heard.
That's so funny.
Because like you
Dude,
think you're like, oh, whatever happened to Evanescence? It's like, yeah, I don't know. Well, guess what? Their guitarist went on to write a bunch of freaking great songs, dude.
that's amazing.
Not saying he didn't in Evanescence,
But he also continued to write great songs.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's funny how many people were in like bands and then they end up becoming like huge producers like 15 years later. I think that that's so sick.
I think it's really cool. I think that actually says something to more of like the having multiple lives inside of the industry kind of thing. Where I think a lot of people get really scared to venture out or try something new or be okay with saying like, yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to go try this other thing.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's a big wall for people to get over, which, I totally understand. They're super self-invested. They're like, I think even Spencer's a really good example where he was like, oh, am I really going to do this finance thing now? And like give up going on the road and all of that. And he was like, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Well, that's like Jack Antonoff was saying that whenever Fun blew up, he was like, first of all, amazed that he didn't have to like sign a blood contract with the devil to have a hit song. But then like, second of all, he was like freaked out by it. He was like, I don't like this. Like, it's not like, it wasn't his song. He's like, he didn't feel comfortable getting that much exposure and credit for something that like he didn't do solely. And so it just made him double down as a producer. And now he's like the biggest producer in the world.
Yeah.
which is crazy. I mean, that dude was playing in like punk bands like back in the early 2000s and stuff. He really worked his way up. Same with Olivia Rodrigo's dude,
Producer. Yeah,
Dan
his
Nigro.
yeah.
He was in, I forget what band, but he was in a band for a really long
He was in
time.
like a popular emo band.
Yeah, and then he was doing sync for like years and years, and then like finally popped off as a producer. And I love those stories. I think that that's so sick.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, to be fair, like a great way to like figure out like how to be a good producer is to work with a bunch of them. You know,
That's
be on the
true.
other side of it. You know,
That's true. So maybe talk about production, Anthony. I know you're an FL guy. You're one of our few FL guys. So I would love to talk like production-y things. What are some production-y things that you've been doing lately that you've been really stoked on? Like either a new plugin or a new trick you've tried that really worked, or some sort of thinking about something differently mindset thing, whatever.
Yeah, I've been looking more at like working with live musicians since I'm still not like I don't play instruments. I used to play
Hmm.
guitar when I was younger, but I gave it up. I do want to get back into guitar eventually. I still think I even have my guitar that I had back then. Like I could
Yeah.
pick it up whenever I want. It's just about kind of finding time to do it. But I definitely want to work with more live instrumentalists, pianists, guitarists, whatever. I found some people it just hasn't really worked out yet. Like they've been busy doing their thing. I've been busy doing my thing. But incorporating that into like the what I'm doing in the
Hmm.
DAW and like using loops, things like that, but combining it with the live
yeah,
instrumentation, I think is like one of the coolest things to do. So I definitely want to get more into that. My process though, I feel like I've just been getting better as far as just sound selection
Hmm.
has been a big thing, and just keeping it clean. I don't know if I mentioned that on the first part of what we did, but like I feel like when I started out, I was trying to do way too much. I was putting like 20 things in a beat and it wasn't
Yeah.
making any sense. It was just like crowded. There was no room for anything. Now I'm like, I maybe maximum, I'll put like 10
yeah,
things in there, at least for the base idea. I'll put like 10 sounds in there. For the most part, it's like 5 to 7. And that's a real good like area where it's like, I feel good about this. It has room if I want to get an artist to be on this. Um, but just trying to not overdo anything, and just keep it simple. But that's really what I want to do more of is just experiment more and mesh my sound with other people's sounds too, which I think is exciting. And being able to collaborate in general is super exciting because I feel like I've only worked with artists up to this point, and maybe people that they don't produce themselves. I'm kind of having to do
Hmm.
everything. I think it would be cool to just work with more people that they kind of get like if I tell them about BPM or key and things like that, they'll know what I'm talking about. Most artists, they might not know the lingo, so it's kind of harder to like
Hmm.
translate with that. But I think that's what I'm going to be getting into more and just like a thing I was thinking about recently. I was like, it would be cool to be in like a group or like a band where we have like a producer, we got a guitarist, and then we have like a singer or something like that, like a little group, and like do some different type of style music where we all mesh like what we do and
Yeah,
make something
reminds me of
new.
Brockhampton a lot.
Would be kind
If
of
you ever
cool.
listen to Brockhampton, they did that
Yeah,
kind of thing where they
yeah,
had,
kind of like that. And they got a lot of people in
well,
that
yeah, but
group,
they
don't
also
they?
had like they had their art design guy, they had their videographer, they had like multiple
Yeah,
producers, they had like 5 or 6 people that all wrote bars or sang or did something. But
yeah,
yeah, no, that's pretty interesting. I think back to the live instrumentation thing, something that me and Josh are talking about is how there's a very stark lack of live instrumentation stuff uh online, we feel like.
yeah. I'd agree with that, especially in hip hop and R&B and stuff. I feel like it's just like who you're finding and like who you can dig to see. Because I feel like it's a little bit of both, but I feel like definitely in the mainstream it's still just very much the more simple beats or the beats that people just make on their laptops are the ones that get caught. When I said even about that idea, one of my favorite groups in the last couple years is um, it's Terrace Martin, Robert Glasper, Kamasi Washington. They all do different instruments. So like Terrace Martin plays the saxophone. That's his primary instrument. I think he plays some keys. Robert Glasper, great pianist, and Kamasi Washington does saxophone and a few other brass instruments. And then they have Ninth Wonder, who's just a producer, and he does all like the drum programming. And they made a group called Dinner
That's
Party,
sick.
and it's like one of my favorite things that's come out in the last few years. Like they got nominated for a Grammy a few years ago. I think I don't know if it was the jazz category or which category for the one album they did. And then they'll usually have like a singer or somebody come and do vocals on top of it. So like different groups like that, and like they all are solo artists, but they all came together and did something different. And I just like when people do that and just kind of combine styles and like figure out new things.
That's super sick. I'm gonna have to add that to our playlist.
Our buddy works with Terrace.
Which buddy?
Yeah, I love Terrace Martin's music, man.
Yeah,
he's incredible.
He's been at
Harvey.
Make Believe Studios doing a few things. I knew the name sounded familiar, and he did like the Splice pack that he released. Ryan was engineering that.
Yeah. Shout out Ryan.
That's awesome.
Shout out Ryan. Make Believe guys.
Yeah, I've used some sounds from that for sure, and I'm just a big fan of his music. He's another musician. He just stays consistent. Like he always is working on something, collab album.
You know what?
Solo.
I think I have probably the greatest question that I can ask you. Are you team J. Cole or team Kendrick in this violent era of beef?
Well, the thing is, I was just telling my friend this the other day because he's a big J. Cole fan. He also loves Kendrick, but he's always been a big J. Cole, Dreamville guy. And I think we both kind of agreed. We're like, if people don't think these guys aren't texting each other back and forth saying, "Damn, dude, that was crazy," because people think this is like a real, like they're actually friends. And the two, like Dreamville and TDE, have like a lot of collaborations between the two. And they always they just had the Dreamville Fest this past weekend. There were TDE artists all over the lineup.
J. Cole actually apologized at it.
Yeah, it's not a real thing. It's really not a real beef at all. Like it's kind of cool.
The real beef was directed towards Drake.
That's what I was going to say. I think Drake got caught in the crosshairs.
and then Drake was just like, I'm just not going to respond and see if J. Cole does. And then J. Cole did. And then J. Cole was like, wait, why am I doing this? Because like me and Kendrick are the best. And Drake sucks. All right. The big three is hot garbage. And Future should be up there instead of Drake.
Josh is a big Future fan. Josh thinks Future
Drake makes meme music, dude. He makes meme music. And you know what? Travis Scott or Future deserve their spot up there. Well, maybe not. Travis is a little too new.
Travis is a little he doesn't have enough under
He's
his
a little
belt.
too new.
I was gonna say I still don't really know what the top three means, because is it popularity? Is it lyricism?
Well, that's the thing.
Because like to me, Drake, for example, he's not a lyricist to me. He's also popular music. He makes a lot of different styles of music, but
Drake is just a money making machine. Yeah. You know, like at this point in his career, he only makes music for TikTok and then he wants to flex about it. And it's like, that's stupid. Kendrick makes the most
wild
intricate he makes the most intricate concept albums ever in hip hop, you know. And then J. Cole is like simply the best rapper, you know. And it's like,
I mean, if going back to to the original question, if I had to pick like between Kendrick or Cole, I listen to more Cole, but I like them both. Like I've always appreciated both of them. I wouldn't call myself a super big fan of either one. Like, I can't name you every single song.
I'm a big Kendrick fan.
I don't listen to them every day, but I do have their music in my playlist, and I listen when they drop albums. I'm like,
who's more of your vibe then? If those two aren't really either your
general,
like your general, music listening stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because there's just so many artists now. I feel like I've been listening to a lot more underground hip hop the last few years, and that's mostly through different producers too. As far as like bigger like rappers that people know, Nas, I think he's dropped just those 6 albums alone that he put out. I feel like those are better than a lot of the things people were talking about. So I'm just like, he never has really wavered from being at that level of a top
Yeah.
lyricist. I was always a big Lupe Fiasco
Shout.
fan too. He's what got me into hip hop was Lupe. I heard him in like 2006. I was like, what is this?
Bro, I think
This
everybody
guy's
saw Kick
incredible.
Push and was like, yo, that's sick. The
Yeah,
song about skateboarding? Heck yeah.
yeah. That was in, because I've told this story on other podcasts. I had the game NBA Live 07, and that was on the
Oh
soundtrack.
yeah.
And that was like one of the first
That's
times
how I
I
am
heard
with
the
Need for
song
Speed
was
Underground.
during that. So,
Need for Speed Underground soundtrack
the
is just
soundtrack, they're just
melted into my
crazy.
brain. That and Tony Hawk's American Wasteland.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Throwback.
Dude, on the GameCube, sick. So
That's
sick.
funny.
I was gonna say I just had the Xbox, the
Yeah,
original
yeah.
Xbox back then, so I was playing it on that.
What's
But
more?
yeah,
Of the what has been some stuff that you've been listening to lately, even in the underground stuff? Like, give us some, put us onto some stuff.
yeah. So for producers, I've been trying to check out a lot more instrumental albums that like producers have been doing, especially since I've been working on my own stuff. I just like to get influences. So obviously like Jay Dilla, Ninth Wonder, who I mentioned earlier. Apollo Brown is a great producer. He's from Detroit. He's worked with a lot of different artists, but he does instrumental albums as well. Who else? De La, who I think is from France. I've never seen this guy's face in my life. Like he's one of those people who never shows his face. Don't even know what he looks like. Great music though. God, who else? There's a lot of different people. Kalen Ellis, who's from Orlando. He's a really dope producer. Mad Keys. I love his music. There's a lot of different people. And I always try to discover new people, whether it's someone that, one of my favorite artists has worked with, or just maybe I stumble upon their video on the internet or on Instagram or something and just be like, wow, that's super cool. Like, let me check out to see if they have any other music out there. So it's a lot of people, but yeah, I feel like I've been dipping into more of just even what the producers are doing without the artists, just to see like, oh, what are they coming up with? Like, what's their concept album, or what kind of styles are they making, and just kind of, see what they're doing.
Sure.
And
well,
what I can do too.
So, dude, it's been a great conversation. I know we had to split this into two parts for
a variety of reasons.
For technology reasons mainly.
Yeah, we definitely did. Hey, we didn't change clothes, guys. We had the same clothes on the whole time.
Yeah,
for the last few
we
weeks.
didn't. Yeah, we didn't change clothes.
You know what's funny is as soon as you lost connection, my internet went out. Yeah, I texted Drew. I was like, I think we're done, dude.
Yeah, I think we're packing it up, boys. All right, but no, Anthony. If people want to find you, check you out, or anything about the podcast, or yourself, or your own production stuff, direct them where they might need to do so.
Yeah. So primarily social media. I'm on Instagram the most, so it's at Anthony_Church24, and then you'll see the link tree in the bio. That pretty much has everything else, and you'll see like the Proven Knowledge page is in the bio. So pretty much that'll get you where you need to go anywhere else. That's where I would say
cool. So Anthony_Church24 on Instagram, and then if on your podcast players, Proven Knowledge podcast, correct?
Yeah, just look up the Proven Knowledge podcast. It's got the little heart in the brain. It'll say the Proven Knowledge podcast.
Well, yeah, you got over 200 episodes, lots of backlog for people to check out if they want to do that. Anthony, thanks so much for coming on the episode and
thank you.
Chatting with us today and a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, guys. Yeah, I was gonna say, I know we had some technical issues, but I'm glad we could do this, and thanks for letting me come on here and share some of my story, and keep doing what you guys are doing. I love your show. Like I said, I just stumbled upon your show one day, and I was like, I like this platform. I like what you guys are doing.
We super appreciate that, man. Listeners, go check out Anthony, give him a follow, check out the podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you guys in the next one.
That's right.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast. If you could take the time to like, subscribe. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other audio platform, go ahead and make sure you're subscribed, and also leave a rating and a review. It helps the show get out to new people, and we're trying to grow every single week. Once again, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Home Studio Hangout podcast, and we'll see you next week.